Samuel 15. Then Samuel said to Saul, I was the one the Lord sent to anoint you as king over the people Israel. Now listen to what the Lord says. Here is what the Lord of heaven's armies has said. I carefully observed how the Amalekites opposed Israel along the way when Israel came up from Egypt. So go now and strike down the Amalekites. Destroy everything they have. Don't spare them. Put them to death, man, woman, child, infant, ox, sheep, camel, and donkey alike. So Saul assembled the army and mustered them at Telaim. There were 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 men of Judah. Saul proceeded to the city of Amalek, where he set an ambush in the wadi. Saul said to the Kenites, Go on and leave. Go down from among the Amalekites. Otherwise, I will sweep you away with them. After all, you are kind to all the Israelites when they came out of Egypt. So the Kenites withdrew from among the Amalekites. Then Saul struck down the Amalekites all the way from Havilah to Shur, which is next to Egypt. He captured King Agag and the Amalekites alive, but he executed all Agag's people with the sword. However, Saul and the army spared Agag along with the best of the flock, cattle, the fatlings, and the lambs, as well as everything else that was of value. They were not willing to slaughter them, but they did slaughter everything that was despised or worthless. Then the Lord's message came to Samuel. I regret that I have made Saul king, for he has turned away from me and has not done what I told him to do. Samuel became angry, and he cried out to the Lord all that night. Then Samuel got up early to meet Saul the next morning, but Samuel was informed, Saul has gone to Carmel, where he is setting up a monument for himself. Then Samuel left and went to Gilgal, where Samuel came to Saul. Saul said to him, May the Lord bless you. I have fulfilled the Lord's orders. Samuel replied, If that is the case, then what is the sound of sheep in my ears and the sound of cattle that I hear? Samuel said, They were brought from the Amalekites. The army spared the best of the flocks and the cattle to sacrifice to the Lord our God, but everything else we slaughtered. Then Samuel said to Saul, Wait a minute, let me tell you what the Lord said to me last night. Saul said to him, Tell me. Samuel said, Is it not true that when you were insignificant in your own eyes, you became head of the tribes of Israel? The Lord chose you as king over Israel. The Lord sent you on a campaign saying, Go and exterminate those sinful Amalekites. Fight against them until you have destroyed them. Why haven't you obeyed the Lord? Instead, you have greedily rushed upon the plunder. You have done what is wrong in the Lord's estimation. Then Saul said to Samuel, But I have obeyed the Lord. I went on the campaign the Lord sent me on. I brought back King Agag of the Amalekites after exterminating the Amalekites. But the army took from the plunder some of the sheep and cattle and the best of what was to be slaughtered to sacrifice the Lord your God at Gilgal. Then Samuel said, Does the Lord take pleasure in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as he does in obedience? Certainly obedience is better than sacrifice. Paying attention is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is like the sin of divination, and presumption is like the evil of idolatry. Because you have rejected the Lord's orders, he has rejected you from being. Then Saul said to Samuel, I have sinned, for I have disobeyed what the Lord commanded, and your words as well, for I was afraid of the army, and I obeyed their voice. Now please forgive my sin. Go back with me so I can worship the Lord. Samuel said to Saul, I will not go back with you, for you have rejected the Lord's orders, and the Lord has rejected you from being king over Israel." When Samuel turned to leave, Saul grabbed the edge of his robe and tore it. Samuel said to him, "The Lord has torn the kingdom from Israel from you this day, and has given it to one of your colleagues who is better than you." The preeminent one of Israel does not go back on his word or change his mind, for he is not a human being who changes his mind. Saul again replied, "I have sinned, but please honor me before the elders of my people and before Israel. Go back with me so I may worship the Lord your God." So Samuel followed Saul back, and Saul worshiped the Lord. Then Samuel said, "Bring me King Agag of the Amalekites." So Agag came to him trembling, thinking to himself, "Surely death is better." Samuel said, "Just as your sword left women childless, so your mother will be the most bereaved among women." So Samuel hacked Agag to pieces there in Gilgal before the Lord. Then Samuel went to Ramah, while Saul went up to his home in Gibeah of Saul. Until the day he died, Samuel did not see Saul again. Samuel did, however, mourn for Saul, but the Lord regretted that he had made Saul king over all. All right, so Saul not doing what he's supposed to. So we already have that established. Saul doesn't do the thing he's told to do. Samuel comes to Saul. "I was with the Lord, sent to anoint you as king over the people." Now listen to what the Lord says. Here's what the Lord of armies says. "Carefully observe how the Amalekites oppressed Israel. So when they came out of Egypt." So here's the reason why. The Amalekites oppressed Israel when they came out of Egypt. So now go and strike down the Amalekites. So the Amalekites have continuously been a thorn in the side of the people of God. They oppress them. Now they continue to oppress. Look at the patience of God from the time they came up out of. So when Moses and Aaron were here, the oppression started then. It has continued. So since judgment has now come upon them, destroy everything they have. Don't spare them. Put them to death. Man, woman, child, infant, ox, sheep, camel, and donkey alike. It's not every time that the instructions are to go and kill everything. This is one of those times where it does happen. Now, other times we do have the language of, "and they killed everything," but then immediately after we have, that, hey, they intermarried or they kept some things. So pay attention to those little clues of whether God is commanding it or whether they are just saying they did it. If they are just saying they did it, it's total victory language. Here, it's judgment, and it gives the reason for the judgment. So this isn't willy-nilly. God is just taking and doesn't like people. They have sinned. It is now time for their sin to come upon them. Now, we don't necessarily, in a modern mindset, understand the corporate sin and the consequences for corporate sin. It happens here throughout the whole Old Testament. Like, we're all about individual rights and liberties and all of that. It's hard for us to wrap our minds around it. This is collective. These people have sinned. They are going to be judged. One of the other things that we see often is the only ones that are totally killed off or told to kill off are the ones who have giants living among them or giants in that clan. So Saul assembles. They're 200,000 foot soldiers, 10,000 men. So notice how this has grown from the last time. Saul is being mindful. He is winning. He also is going to go here, and he goes and he warns the Kenites, "Don't be among them. You have not made the sin that the Amalekites did, so you are free to leave if you leave being among the Amalekites." So the Kenites leave from the Amalekites. Saul strikes them down, and they are victorious. He captures Agag. He does not execute him. He executes the people with the sword. And then Saul and the army spare Agag and the best of the flock, the cattle and the fatling and the lambs, as well as anything else that was of value. Anything that was good that I would want, I'm going to take. But if it was worthless, yeah, we'll do what we're supposed to with that. Then the Lord's message came to Saul, "I regret that I have made Saul king. He has turned away from me." Samuel became angry, and he cried out to the Lord all that night. So Samuel is angry with Saul, but he's still crying out on behalf of Saul. Or is he angry that God is turning away from Saul? Because, This is what you told me to do. This is who you chose. Samuel gets up to meet Saul, and then we're going to learn what Samuel learned all night long. But he finds Samuel went up to Carmel. So he just set up himself a monument like, oh my goodness, God gave you a victory and you're setting up a monument to yourself. Like you didn't even let other people do this. You are putting up your own monument. Never make a monument to yourself, people. And then when Samuel shows up, Saul's like, hey, may the Lord bless you. I fulfilled the Lord's orders. I went and I won. You told me to go and God would be with me, and I did. And then Samuel's like, if that's the case, why do I hear sheep and cattle? You didn't obey. You didn't obey. We brought the Amalekites army. We spared the best to sacrifice to the Lord. But everything else we slaughtered. Like, yeah, we did what we're supposed to. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Then Samuel said to Saul, wait a minute. Let me tell you what the Lord said last night. Tell me. He's anxious to hear it. Like, he thinks it's good news. He has just disobeyed and doesn't realize he's disobeyed. Like, he just thinks that his plan is better. Like, we're going to sacrifice them to God. We kept them. Is it not true that you were insignificant in your own eyes before you became head of the tribes of Israel? You didn't even have a high image of yourself. Now you're building a monument to yourself, buddy. The Lord chose you to be king over his people. The Lord sent you on a campaign saying, go exterminate the Amalekites, those sinful Amalekites. Fight against them until you have destroyed them. Why haven't you obeyed the Lord? Instead, you greedily rushed upon the plunder. You have done what is wrong in the Lord's estimation. You kept stuff. Then Saul said to Samuel, but I have obeyed the Lord. I went on the campaign. I brought back King Agag of the Amalekites after exterminating the Amalekites. But the army took the plunder, some of the sheep and cattle, the best of what was to be slaughtered, to sacrifice the Lord your God. So the army did the capturing of it. Doesn't that sound like you were supposed to be obedient, and now we're getting the blame of other people in the garden? There was the temptation. It looked good in their sight. It was good looking, so they took what was good looking for themselves instead of being obedient to not take it to themselves. And he was also supposed to kill the king, but he doesn't kill the king. He brings the king with him. And so, look, we did all that we were supposed to. Like, no, you didn't. And then Samuel's going to say what gets repeated later on. Does the Lord take pleasure in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as he does obedience? Obedience. Paying attention is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is like the sin of divination, and presumption is like an evil idolatry. You presumed this was a better way to honor God. It was not. Just the way that Aaron's sons presumed they could do it their own way to honor God. You can't do it your own way. Because you've rejected the Lord's orders, you have rejected, or he has rejected you. So you rejected listening to God, he's rejected you. Kind of like Adam and Eve getting kicked out of the garden. You're now not going to be God's anointed king forever. Your house is rejected. He won't be with you when you go to battle. Now Saul suddenly realizes he sinned. I have sinned. I have disobeyed what the Lord commanded, and your words as well. For I was afraid of the army, and I obeyed their voice. Now he admits to it. He's still fearful of the army. He's still not a leader. He still is looking out for, I don't want them to abandon me again. They abandoned me before. If I didn't let them have the plunder, they might have abandoned me. So go back with me to worship the Lord. So come with me. Samuel's like, I'm not going. You rejected the Lord's orders. I'm not going to be with you. And then he goes to leave, and Saul grabs his cloak, his robe, and rips it. Like, because Samuel's trying to leave, and he grabs it, and it pulls, and it rips. And he said, the Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from your hand, you this day, and given it to your colleague, who is better than you. The preeminent one of Israel does not go back on his word or change his mind. You can't change God's mind. It has been established. The kingdom has just been torn from your hands. Saul says, I've sinned, but please honor me before the elders and my people and before Israel. Go back with me so I may worship the Lord, your God. Okay, Supersonic, if you were still here, you were asking about, does Saul serve God? Now, this might be a clue that he doesn't, because he says, worship the Lord, your God, Samuel. I'm going to worship the Lord, your God. But sometimes it's just an odd way of saying that you are the priest of, you are the king of, so it is your God. So you can't be certain here, but we do have it. It is your God. I want to go in and worship your God. So Samuel followed back, and Saul worshiped the Lord. It does say he worshiped him, though, but I don't think he exclusively only worships Yahweh. Then Samuel says, bring me the king Agag of the Amalekites. He's going to do what Saul would not do. So surely death is bitter. Samuel says, just as your sword left women childless, and your mother will be the most bereaved of women. And he cuts him into pieces at Gilgal. So the prophet of God is the one who has to carry out the orders that Saul did not do. Then Samuel goes to Ramah, while Saul went up to Gibeah. And until the day that Samuel dies, he never sees Saul again, it says. Samuel did, however, mourn for Saul, but the Lord regretted that he had made Saul king over Israel. Samuel doesn't see him again, but Samuel continues to pray for him. So notice that. Like, that is a good pattern. If there's someone that we do not agree with, we see someone who is going against God, it doesn't mean we stop praying for them. We continue to pray for them. We continue to lift them up before God. We don't neglect doing that.